you can see my first screen. It's the neuroscience of learning, and we're going to focus on attention today, if you don't mind. I need just a feedback at the beginning to make sure that we are. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you can hear me, that means I can get started, and I like to use the pointer. My name is Jamil Badli, and my PhD in special education, and I am interested in learning disabilities specifically. And these abbreviation BCN, it's the American Board in Neurofeedback. And I'll talk about this field in further. And QEGD, it's a certificate on reading brain maps, and it has two levels, D and T. T for technician and D for diplomate. And I have also speech and language pathology master degree. That's enabled me to hold the clinical license from Ministry of Public Health, and I got a medical privilege, full medical privilege in a neurofeedback after acquiring my American board. This is from Ministry of Health as a first practitioner in Qatar in neurofeedback practices. So let's get started. These are our objectives today. Hopefully we can cover it. We'll talk about basic concept of neuroscience, and we will talk about specifically the brain areas, function, and networks. Then we're gonna explain lots of information about the brain waves. That's exactly what we mean when we're talking about the neurofeedback. We work around the brain waves. So the brain waves, it's responsible about our feelings, our thinking, and our behavior as well. Then we will try to connect this to different problems, like such as dyslexia, and how the anxiety could affect our brain working, and as well as the ADHD. Then I'll talk about this technology in a further details. So what we mean by neuroscience, it's a scientific study of the brain and the human behaviors with a technology. So there is a missing word here. We're using the technology to measure the brain function. During the last decade, or the last century, between 1990 and 2000, it was the decade of the brain. But during the 21st century, they call it the brain century. The government project has been launched by President Obama, and he started the brain projects. And this the main goal of this project, it's try to put the model of the brain and the way the brain it's working. So the government, they review the progress in this project, and they put more budget and investment in this big project. And for the last 5 years, we start receiving the outcome of this investment by revealing lots of hidden information about the brain. The European governments, they launch a human brain project, and we can see how the people, I mean, the advanced, and they are competing in making progress in this field. So we start like hearing something around the new era in the 21st century. We hear something like neuro leadership, and we have something in neuro marketing. So we are studying the brain and how it's affecting our marketing behavior. And in neuro leaderships, and there is a very nice institution in America. This the practices of this help the leaders understand the brain. And if you understand the mechanism of working the brain, you will know how to lead your teams. So neurolearning, today's presentation is part of this practices. And one of the neuroscience application is to use it in therapeutic level. So it could be neurocounseling, biofeedback, neurofeedback, and different application for neuroscience in our life. And there are more than 30 disciplines under the field of neuroscience. Now, the mindset as a discovery of a neuroscience, it's something worth to keep it under our attention. So we have the mindset, we have a growth mindset and fixed mindset. So the way we look at different characteristics may be the effort. The fixed mindsets, he might prefer the effort, something you do when you are not good. So it's the way we are thinking about our achievement. But the growth mindset are the same thing, an important part of learning. So bring control under the learning and success. And I would like most of the time give example about the mindset. It's when you have, as a teacher, you have a challenge by, there is a student in your class with learning disabilities or learning problem or challenges. So the first impression from the teacher, if he or she said, this boy, he born like this and nothing can change him. And it's like we have a saying in Arabic, we said, because the ديك الفصيح من البيضة بصيح. So if he is smart and intelligent, at the moment of his born, that he will, the way he's crying, it will tell you if he is smart or not. But this way of thinking about his potential, it's framing him and also showing the fixed mindset. At the growth level, we can see another level of thinking. So the teacher who is having a students with learning challenges, he might say to himself, oh, this is a good learning opportunity for me, and I will learn about how I can help him. And he take this learning disabilities as a challenge for him. So the mindset, one of the worth pay attention to it. Now, the neuroplasticity, also another discovery of the neuroscience in the 21st century. It was like before the 21st century, we were thinking that the brain, it's static and it's rigid, nothing can be changed. And if someone has been diagnosed with maybe anxiety or depression, this is the way he is. But now the new discovery, it's showing that the neuroplasticity, it's something can make changing in the brain at the structural and functional level. So this is a very important discovery. And what we are doing in the neurofeedback, we use this ability in the brain, and we change the way people feel and learn and behave as well. So neuroplasticity, how can I improve it? There are lots of maybe habits, or you can learn it maybe the way you pay attention, control your diet, and also your emotion as well. One more other discoveries, and it has lots of practical level in neuroscience is the unconscious bias. And this is taking lots of attention and concern in the neuroscience field, where the scientists try to find out how the people or good people make their mind and their attitude and the way they make their choices. This is very booming area nowadays with this new technologies and social media also booming in the 21st century. I'm not going to talk about these things because each subject could be a separate uh, so these are, please sign up with your first and last. You have, okay, I'm trying to read the messages now. Now, how much is the neuroscience career could pay? The highest one is the neurologist, but I doubt this number. It's true. It's more than this. And you could think about average yearly income, and also the cognitive neuroscience, it's around 84,000 yearly. But this number, it's way below the actual income. I know a neurologist is from America, and when I want like to do counseling with him and send him a case, I have to wait a month till I get an appointment with him. So it's a booming area in the 21st century. So let's jump to the brain areas and functions. So basically, when we take a look at the brain, we can separate it to 5 different areas. We have the frontal lobe, it's the yellow, and you can see how big the frontal lobe is. It's full of brain function. And we have parietal lobe, we call it the integration lobe. And we have the temporal lobe. And we have occipital lobe, where the vision is processed. Cerebellum for movement and muscle control. And we have the spinal, that's part of the brain that connecting the brain with the body. So what's about the function of the frontal lobe? It's responsible about our thinking, our solving problem, and it's located in the surface of the cortex, and our speaking and language as well. The parietal lobe, it's responsible about our perception, knowing right and left, and our also body orientation and sensation. So kids with autistic spectrum, they have a problem in their sensory integration, mainly in this loop. Now the temporal lobe, it's where the long-term memory located, and it's working in a very organized way. So the learning process comes when the eyes see maybe an object, then it goes direct to the occipital lobe, and the occipital lobe, it's processing only raw data of visual input, and it goes to the parietal and temporal lobe, but we go for temporal lobe for integration, and we access the information from our senses visually as well as auditory. And after we perceive this, so the perception happening in the temporal lobe, then we can bring it back for the production where the frontal lobe can do it. And one important features in our brain, it's the spinal cord. And this area responsible about physiological factors that nurture the brain, where the breathing and body temperature, swallowing, as sleeping, it's make a big difference in the brain function if we have a problem in any things of these physiological factors. One of the learning the brain, especially the learning brain, we could divide it into different brain function. So there is a model, maybe you are aware of it, it's all kind of minds. And this division, or this level of learning the brain, divide the brain into 8 different areas. So we can study the memory, and we know that there are 3 levels of memory: the active and short-term as well as long-term. And there is also the retrieval memory, where you are also part of this process. The spatial and sequential ordering, it's responsible about ordering the learning on the time and spatial level. The language also another construct. We study it, and we know that the language could be receptive and expressive, and we have all levels of language, where we start with the phoneme, then we end up with pragmatic and discourse and metalinguistic interaction. And another construct in the brain, it's the motor control. And we know there are fine and gross motor control, which is a very important construct in building the learning brain. Also, we can talk about the higher thinking skills, where we build the concepts and the critical thinking. Teachers of science and math, they are heavily rely on this brain ability. And then the last feature, it's the social thinking. And we know that it's a very important feature in our learning brain. Then today we're going to talk about the attention. And when we talk about attention, I like to divide it into 3 major functions. So the first one, if we would like to get a good attention span in our learning, first we want to make sure we have enough resources. So the mental energy, something can help us sustain and our attention, and to be having like stronger and longer attention. This can come with the quality of the sleeping, and also as well as the quality of the food and diet programs. So this will help us to be on a good alertness, and our mental effort will be intact. Then the sleep arousal and the consistency. We mean by sleep arousal, sometimes you might attend like a classroom or training course, and you find yourself get bored. So this is your level of paying attention or lose your attention. So the mental energy, it's one of the elements that help us get a quality of attention. Then intake control, we mean by this, it's at the moment of teaching and learning. So teaching by teacher, learning by students. So the convey of the information and the transmission of the information between the teacher and the students, is it intact or in a good shape? So sometimes when you are as a teacher and you stand in front of the students, you can tell from the eyes, from the body language, from the way that students smile, if your information going to their minds or their brains or not. And if you have like a students who's losing your eye contact with him, you know that the intake control from this particular students, it's something affecting his learning. Now, the third element of paying attention, it's the output control. Now, if you, we mean by the output, we also give the students or the learner, we give him a time to write a product, to have something to do it. Maybe could be verbal presentation, or he might do some drawing or written form of a production to show his learning. So does the learner paying attention at the output control, or also he is paying attention during intake control, and he comes with a good mental energy? When we leave him alone to do his written production, he's losing his attention to make a quality learning output. So we can give example about the output control, like a Brevion control. When you are sending SMS message or WhatsApp or whatever message, then you, when you read it or you send it with the mistakes, you make like adjust the mistake after reading the message again. So these are some of the elements if we would like to get a quality attention in our classrooms. Now let's watch this video.
Dr. Badli?
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I just realized that in about 5 or 6 minutes, Zoom is going to cut us off, and then we'll all have to jump back on again.
Okay. So what's, you want me to go out and?
Well, do you think that, no, we have to wait for it to cut off, but is your video, how long is your video that we're going to watch?
My video will be around like 2.5 minutes.
Okay, we can go ahead and watch it. But everybody just remember that as soon as it turns it off, then we just have to hit the link again and go back in to finish the presentation. I apologize.
Okay, no, it's I appreciate your feedback. And please, anyone have any comment or question, just stop me and I'll be more happy to.
I put the Zoom link in the chat box.
Okay.
Great.
So now we can also access the Zoom. Now, can I start the video now?
Yes, sir.
Let's see. And there is sound in the video. Can you hear it?
No.
Now, can you hear it? Can you hear the sound?
Try it again.
Okay, I can try. At the beginning, there was no sound.
Okay. We do not hear it.
Let's do something on the.
Sounds like the normal person can hear the man walking, and also the sound of the car, and the ADHD child is going, you know, everything is distracting him.
Yeah, I can make a comment because at the same time. So we are watching a normal and an ADHD person. So if there is any sound, so now there is a car sound coming from the background. And there is a sound of a man walking. And the sound goes from right to left. And watch the time. Of course, we are cutting the time, but this is now after 5 minutes. It's a car sound. So after 5 minutes, it's a normally to get like to move our body. We need to move our body, the normal person. But look the way the ADHD moving his body. Now, walking man. So now it's seven minutes. Look to the way the ADHD moving his body. Now there is a sound of a flying plane. Now it's a car again. So it looks for the ADHD students, the louder the sound, the hyper he is getting. And with the time, he cannot do something, we call it saliency determination. So he cannot isolate the stimulation from around him coming from the environment to his brain. So he is stimulated by anything around him. And if there is no stimulation, he could do a self-stimulation from like moving his body. Let's continue watching. Any comment about this video? It meant to have you listen to this sound. So any comment after this video? Unmute yourself and
I think we've all seen students who behave this way and children who are who pick up on all of the different sounds in their environment. I think we've all seen that. I catch myself doing it sometimes. I get distracted. So I can certainly see how it looks different from the normal person.
Yeah, that's right. There is a normal range of like body movement. When you get bored. That's right. Any other comments?
And now also I noticed that the new term is ADHD, no more ADD. So it's always ADHD.
Well, yeah, there is. It's we can see this like phenomena increasing maybe nowadays with these technology. The kids, they're getting more crazy than before. The ADD. I work in a clinic. I work too many cases with ADHD, and every like 10 cases with a hyperactive, I get one case in attention deficit. So it's more common. I agree with you.